Cowboys fans, you know how it goes when the week starts with an update about the quarterback. The second that word injury pops up next to Dak Prescott's name, the whole fan base stops what they're doing and leans in, because even when the team insists it is minor, nobody takes it lightly. Early in the week, as players were still shaking off the hits from that Monday night battle, it became clear that Dak would appear on the injury report with a hip issue. The description for it was soft enough to calm the nerves a little, something along the lines of soreness from normal contact, nothing alarming, nothing that would alter the plan for the weekend. Even so, everyone who follows this team closely knows that any physical concern surrounding Dak requires attention, simply because history has taught us to never assume it's insignificant. The expectation coming into the practice session was that Dak would go through everything without limitations, but once work began, he wasn't listed as a full participant. That small detail instantly sparked conversation, because it is one thing to say a player is fine and another to see him restricted, even if just for precaution. In the National Football League, the way these designations appear midweek usually follows a recognizable pattern. After a physical matchup on Monday, the Wednesday session often ends up being lighter, more about recovery than heavy workload. Most players listed as limited in that slot end up starting without trouble. Still, with Dak, it is never just a line on paper. His journey tells you why fans stay cautious. They remember the calf problem, the ankle nightmare, the overuse concerns, all the moments where something that sounded manageable turned into something that affected his rhythm for weeks. What makes this situation tricky to read is that Dak didn't show any signs of distress during the game itself. He finished the matchup without asking out, without limping, without anything that suggested he was dealing with a significant setback. That usually points toward a bruise or a hit that stiffens up the morning after. When a quarterback absorbs that many snaps, that many rollouts, that many hits, waking up sore is pretty normal. The staff acknowledged that he felt the impact the next day, and that already explains a lot. The concern isn't really tied to the severity this time, but to the reality that he is no longer at the stage of his career where bouncing back instantly is guaranteed. Time changes everything, even for quarterbacks who take care of their bodies like Dak does. As the week moves forward, the expectation is still that he will be under center when the Cowboys face Philadelphia. Most veteran stars across the league have their workload managed, and some of the best quarterbacks barely practice midweek, but still take the field at full speed on game day. That pattern has become part of the modern season, especially when the schedule turns brutal. And this particular stretch is unforgiving. Coming off a Monday game, lining up again Sunday, and then preparing for a quick turnaround into the Thursday showcase creates a rhythm that strains every part of the roster. Coaches have to protect players from themselves, because no competitor willingly steps back unless absolutely necessary. The biggest unknown isn't whether Dak plays, but whether he plays at 100% or something slightly below that. Sometimes those small differences don't show in the first quarter, but they become noticeable when a quarterback has to escape pressure late in the game or plant hard on a throw to the opposite sideline. That's why any minor detail involving his hips, legs, or core draws attention. The offense relies heavily on his ability to extend plays, reset his base, and hit tight windows. Even a small dip in mobility can influence the timing in those crucial moments that decide divisional matchups. While Dak's situation has dominated discussions, the rest of the injury report brought its own set of stories. Several defensive pieces showed up with limited participation, something that naturally raises questions but doesn't necessarily hint at long-term issues. At this point of the year, almost no veteran defender practices at full capacity every single day. The collisions add up, the joints complain a little louder, and the staff takes every chance to preserve bodies for game day. Some players were dealing with shoulder soreness, others with small strains or lingering aches that come with the job. The key detail is that none of them appear to be trending toward missing the upcoming matchup, and that alone was encouraging considering how heavy the defensive rotation has been. Even more promising was the sight of certain linemen working back into the mix after missing time. The defensive front has gone through a transformation since last season, with new faces, different rotations, and a deeper bench than the group had months ago. Getting players back into that rotation is crucial because this next opponent forces every inch of depth to show up. Philadelphia's style demands physicality in the trenches, and the Cowboys know firsthand that playing shorthanded there typically ends badly. Having multiple interior players trending toward availability not only strengthens the game plan, but also lets the coaches spread snaps more evenly, avoiding fatigue that becomes costly in the fourth quarter. The secondary also carried its share of mild concerns, with a couple safeties monitored before clearing the biggest hurdles. Their roles varied between coverage responsibilities and run support, and the staff has been careful not to overload them through the week. Some had just returned from recent complications. Others were pushing through manageable injuries that need consistent supervision. The positive news was the return of a few players who had previously missed time, reinforcing the depth chart in a unit that has experienced sudden absences during critical stretches. On the offensive line, one familiar name remained on the report as expected. Tyler Smith has been battling a knee issue that never quite goes away, the type of annoyance that follows linemen all year. It wouldn't shock anyone if he eventually needs a cleanup procedure once the season ends. But for now, he keeps grinding through every week, managing the discomfort and staying active in practice whenever possible. His toughness has been evident since the moment he entered the league, and the Cowboys depend heavily on his consistency to keep the pocket stable for Dak. With all of these layers building up, the anticipation for the showdown against Philadelphia only grows. These games always carry weight, not just because of the rivalry, but because of what they mean for standings, confidence, and momentum. Fans are already tossing around their predictions, wondering how the offense will respond, how the defense will match up, and whether this will be one of those battles that comes down to a single late possession. The excitement is undeniable, even with the concern hovering over the quarterback situation. And then there was a roster move that quietly sparked conversation behind the scenes. A linebacker who had struggled to carve a stable role in the rotation was claimed by another team, giving him a fresh start elsewhere. For Dallas, the move opened up space and cleared a financial detail that would have lingered otherwise. For the player, it meant a chance to land on an active roster and pursue snaps in a new environment. Sometimes both sides benefit when careers need a reset, especially when multiple coaching staffs evaluate a player the same way and the fit simply never clicks. Now he heads to a team looking for depth at that position, and the Cowboys continue adjusting the back end of the roster as they prepare for another crucial stretch. As the week kept moving, the conversation around the facility shifted from the initial worry to a more detailed look at how the team would adjust if anything limited Dak's mobility on game day. Coaches were subtle about it, but anyone watching closely could see that certain drills leaned more toward timing, anticipation, and quick-release mechanics. The kind of focus that helps a quarterback operate efficiently even when he is not feeling 100%. The staff knows that when Dak feels any kind of discomfort in his lower body, the safest path is refining everything that helps him win from the pocket, because that minimizes situations where he needs to torque his hips at full strength or push off with maximum force. Nothing about the week screamed panic, but there was definitely a sense of quiet preparation for multiple scenarios. Behind the scenes, the receivers approached the week with an extra layer of responsibility. Whenever there is a chance the quarterback might not move the same way he normally does, the pass catchers know they have to sharpen their routes, attack space quicker, and create cleaner windows. Precision becomes more valuable, especially in matchups where every defensive back will be aggressive. Philadelphia's secondary loves to challenge releases, disrupt timing, and force tight coverage situations, and the best way to counter that is with synchronized movement between quarterback and receivers. That anticipation takes hours of repetition, and this group has been building that chemistry all year. So even with Dak easing into the week, the work continued with intensity, because the receivers understand that their margin for error shrinks in games like this one. The running backs were also aware of how important their role could become. When a quarterback is nursing soreness, the ground game becomes more vital, not necessarily because the team wants to run more, but because the threat of a strong rushing attack forces defenses to play honestly. A balanced offense helps protect the quarterback, not only by reducing pressure, but by slowing down pass rushers who otherwise would be barreling off the edge every snap. In a divisional matchup, controlling the line of scrimmage is everything. The backs spent the week honing their reads, adjusting their footwork for the different defensive fronts Philadelphia likes to use, and preparing for the type of physical game that often decides the trajectory of the season. While Dak's situation dominated headlines, there were quieter stories unfolding on the defensive side. Several players who had been banged up over recent games showed signs of progress, moving through drills with better fluidity than the week before. Even though some were still officially listed as limited, their energy told a more encouraging story. The defensive line in particular looked deeper than it had in weeks. With players returning and young talent continuing to grow, the rotation seemed close to full strength. That is critical because Philadelphia thrives when it can wear down opponents by leaning on its offensive line. The Cowboys counter that with waves of linemen who rotate in aggressively, keeping everyone fresh for the fourth quarter when games often hinge on a single pressure or a single tackle for loss. Linebackers spent extra time reviewing film because Philadelphia's offensive structure is designed to force hesitation. Their misdirection, option plays, and run-pass conflict require defenders to trust their eyes but react instantly. Any lapse, even half a second, gives up chunks of yardage. With a divisional matchup approaching, the linebacking group focused heavily on improving communication. They worked on hand signals, verbal adjustments, and pre-snap reads, making sure everyone could respond to shifts and motion without confusion. When a defense has to deal with that many moving parts, unity becomes a weapon. And this unit showed signs of settling into a rhythm that had been missing earlier in the season. Meanwhile, the offensive line continued pushing through their own challenges. With some players managing lingering issues, reps were carefully structured to avoid unnecessary strain. But even with moderation, the group maintained an intensity that matched the stakes. They understand that Philadelphia's defensive front will test their technique every snap. The interior of the line focused on handling power rushers who like to collapse the pocket, while the tackles prepared for relentless edge pressure. Quick hands, solid base, and coordinated communication were the themes of the week, because one miscommunication can lead to a free rusher, and one free rusher can turn into a game-altering play. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers have been swirling around the league, and now the rumor mill might just be turning into a full-blown stampede. Derrick Henry, the human freight train, could be gearing up to don the star of the Cowboys. Sources close to the locker room claim that negotiations have been heating up behind the scenes. And if this deal comes to fruition, AT&T Stadium might be about to witness a level of ground game domination rarely seen in modern football. Fans have been daydreaming for weeks, imagining the sheer force of Henry hitting the line in silver and blue. The man known for bulldozing through defensive fronts as if they were mere obstacles in his path isn't just a running back. He's a phenomenon, a highlight reel in human form. Cowboys insiders are reportedly buzzing with excitement at the thought of pairing him with the team's already potent offense. There's talk that the coaching staff is already drawing up schemes that could let Henry unleash his tractor mode without mercy, making the opposition think twice before daring to step in front of him. Social media has caught fire with speculation. Memes depicting Henry plowing through linebackers in cowboy hats are spreading like wildfire, and fan forums are buzzing with hypothetical scenarios where the Cowboys' ground game suddenly becomes the league's nightmare. Some analysts are cautiously optimistic, noting that Henry's physical dominance could complement the team's aerial attack, giving the offense a new, unpredictable dimension. Others, of course, are skeptical. What about longevity, injuries, and the grueling pace of a full NFL season? Yet, even the skeptics can't help but imagine the spectacle. Defenders scattering as the Tennessee Titan trades orange for blue. Insiders hint that locker room dynamics could shift dramatically. Veteran players might see a renewed energy with Henry in the mix, while rookies could find themselves inspired or intimidated by the sheer presence of a running back capable of breaking tackles like twigs. Rumor has it that merchandise plans are already being floated, with potential jersey sales expected to skyrocket if the deal solidifies. The Cowboys, already a storied franchise, might be on the cusp of a narrative-defining moment. The arrival of a ground game so unstoppable that the AT&T faithful could be talking about it for years to come. Of course, nothing is official yet, but the mere possibility has ignited imagination from Dallas to the farthest reaches of the NFL universe. If Derrick Henry does make the leap, one thing seems certain. The gridiron may never look the same again. And somewhere deep inside AT&T Stadium, the echo of a hypothetical tractor mode is already reverberating. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.